You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Happy New Year, Squids, presented by Bet365. This is Leafs Morning Take, the first edition of 2025. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. What's going on, Rosie?
What's going on, man? It's been a minute, it feels like. Good to be back, though. How are we doing?
Not bad, not bad. Still recovering from a rather uneventful New Year's Eve for the first time, I think, in a couple years. I didn't hit the town this year. Already went out over the weekend. What did you do?
I was in the mountains for a little bit. That wasn't really through the actual New Year, but did some sledding and some skiing with some family. Then came back and wasn't feeling very good. Didn't do anything crazy. Went to a party, saw the ball drop, got the kids home. Nothing wild, man.
It's like bingo bango, New Year. I'm excited for this show for a variety of reasons. Among them, we put together a list of Leafs-related New Year's resolutions, which is always fun, man. I went to the gym yesterday, January 1, and it was packed. It took me twice the time to do my workout. And it just got me thinking about this show and the New Year's resolutions we put in place for the Maple Leafs this year in 2025.
So going to the gym, is it like I don't really do the public gym too much. I try to do some other stuff, but is it like people doing their Instagrams in the mirror and setting up phones to record themselves working out? And is it all crazy like that or not too bad? I don't know what you kids are up to these days in the gym.
There's actually a gym near my area where I live that is dedicated to that. It's got sushi. You can buy sushi in this place. It's got everything you can dream of. So all the Instagram and influencers have gone there. So my gym's like pretty respectable. I will say once in a blue moon, somebody will show up, full tripod action, like just work out. Just you don't know. People are like live on Instagram. Just work out. Just
Too
work
funny.
out.
Well, I'm going in today. I'm gonna join something
Nice.
in town here and do some boot camps and get back into shape. I don't know. I've been feeling like a slug lately. So I guess I'm one of those New Year's res guys, even though it's just the timing of it. It was time to get rocking and rolling. But maybe the followers can follow my progress as I take a shirtless picture every day for a year.
I think it's just the optimism of a new year. Like I was thinking about that the other day. What is it about a new year that gets people jacked? I just think it's optimism for the future. And I think also here in Canada, it's the weather. It's like you need something to look forward to, right?
Yeah, I don't really do the New Year thing. I break it
Yeah.
up into like seasons. Like it's
Such
weird that a
hockey
New
player.
Year starts and you get half of a winter and then summer and then half of a winter again. It's just a weird time to start the year. But yeah, I don't know. People get worked up about it. But if you need a timeline to start doing stuff or making changes, why not make it the New Year, January 1?
Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. Our Super Chat charity partner, as you guys know, this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comments gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. Have you been watching the World Juniors, Rosie?
Little bit. It's been a little concerning for
You know
old
what's pissing me off, Rosie?
who?
These fucking Americans. So cocky, dude. How many times in the last 25 years of this tournament alone have the Americans got so cocky because of a round robin victory to forget about what the tournament's about? I'm not going to say Canada's going to win this tourney, but seeing tweets, America's the best, this and that, man, I hope they pay for it.
It's what Americans tend to do when they leave their bubble of the US. I think I've said it on the show before, but like the Americans get a bad rap for being like cocky and rude. And when you're in the States, I don't find that at all. I find them
know.
amazing all over the place. But when they leave America and they're out on, displaying themselves in a different country, they tend to get this little, what is this garbage compared to this is different than my home? And I don't know, when they're, young, cocky little junior players and, there's been that rivalry for a while with Canada and the States. I'm not surprised at all. It makes me chuckle, but I mean, stuff it down their throats and beat them if you don't want to see that shit. And they haven't been able to do that. They certainly didn't on New Year's. And yeah, they kind of have a tough look this year, highlighted by the loss to Latvia, obviously, but they got to get the penalties under control. They got to play mean and they got to play with character, but they got to do it within the boundaries of international hockey, which is called a lot tighter. And they got to find a way to be better because they left so many guys off the roster that were like, all these stats of this in the OHL and this leading scorer and that. And they tried to build a team with some character. Yet I'm just like, well, can we see this character? Can we see this depth and see this hockey team that can run through like lost to Latvia and having it's not a good look. They need to regroup in a hurry.
It reminds me of like that '06 team, Torino. They brought like, what was it, like Chris Draper? Like, there's just so many like, and again, I don't know junior hockey like the back of my hand, like say the NHL, but like everything you just mentioned, and from talking to a lot of people, they left some really good talent off the roster, and then they can't score goals, and it feels like Groundhog Day, and it feels like I'm watching the team we cover on a daily basis. They can't stay out of the box. They can't score. I think Mark Savard's running their power play. Like, dude, come on, boys, just bring it together. Like, if you need that motivation, you're on home ice. It's Ottawa, Rosie. 15 years ago, I was at this tournament. I saw the Everly goal firsthand. John Tavares, what a play. They end up winning that tournament. It's so difficult to motivate modern day players. I'll just leave it at that, where it's like 15 years ago. And I hate being the old grandfather on a lawn type guy. But 15 years ago, you would run the team out of the building on New Year's Eve, dude. It was the easiest game for the States, I felt.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, hindsight's 2020. You look back and say, "Oh, well, you can't score, at will," but you left these goal scorers off the roster. But when you look back to when they were picking the team, and it was like, whether people were for it or not, it was like, hey, we're not just going to take, the highest, point totals in each league and just chuck those guys on a team and hope it works. They tried to build a team that had, some depth to it and some character. Unfortunately, like you say, the players these days, I mean, you don't have, the players that play with that grit and play that style of hockey that can be effective. They think they're going to go do that and they go bury guys from behind and punch a guy in the face. And it's like parade to the penalty box. It's like, I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it. Right. It's more of a team toughness mentality and physically within the rules dominate them. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Guys don't do that too much anymore. And if you try to, it stands out like such a sore thumb, especially in international hockey. You might get prayed to the penalty box anyways, just trying to play a little bit rugged. And, obviously they crossed the line by a million there against the States and they need to rectify that. But it's tough this day and age, man. You can't find those guys. And if you do find that gem that wants to go do that, good chance you'll pray to the penalty box anyways. So I think they're having trouble finding their identity right now.
Ironically enough, there's a dude on the Vancouver Canucks who's American who hates to lose. We talk about this every postseason with the Maple Leafs, and this is just grinding my gears to the nth degree in Vancouver. We all know this is going to play out. Like if you're not watching the Vancouver Canucks on a daily basis, there's drama, there's turmoil. JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, they hate each other. They don't want to play together from everything we gather with that situation. They have to, almost by letter of the law, trade JT Miller, who is the playoff performer. He's that guy who will go to bat for you, who'll go through a wall for you, for Elias Pettersson. And now the stories come out yesterday, Brad Richardson, on Missing Curfew, talking about how he had to tell, Miller, you've got to be careful with this kid. You're going to lose him. You're going to lose him. And it's just so relatable to this market, Rosie. Like, what happened to that old school player, man? Like, JT Miller's a guy I would love on my roster right now. I'll say that.
I hear you. Tough situation in Vancouver, but you got a guy, I think the age difference and the potential and the ceiling and what you have in front of you, if you have to make a decision, they're going to hang with Elias Pettersson. And it's kind of annoying because he's one of those softer guys that shuts down and says, I'm not playing if everything isn't perfect. And it's not the mentality that I like. And, before the show, we're rattling off guys' names who hate to lose. And that used to be 3/4, 80% of the league. And now it's like a couple guys here and there. It seems like the guys that show it, obviously guys care, but it's just a different mentality now. And it is quite the drama in Vancouver. And it's crazy that a former player came out and said that. And it reminds me of Dion Phaneuf when he got to Toronto. He'd be hard on guys and he'd chirp and he'd always talking and he'd get under guys' skin. And sometimes he'd pick a guy that didn't like that and would shy away from it. And he'd smell blood and he'd go after that guy all the time. And, not to the point where guys are in tears, but like damn close. Like you can go too far. You can push too far. And And instead of motivating and challenging, you get to be putting down. And I'm not saying Dion was doing that, but some guys just don't respond to that. And more than ever, nowadays, these younger players don't respond to it. I remember when I was, leaving North American hockey, going, these 20-year-olds, if you say one thing about them that might be like, a little bit of a challenge or a little bit of a, do you agree with that? Does that motivate you? And they're just like, duh, how dare, like no one's ever said that to me. My mom's always said I'm incredible. My agent says I'm incredible. My dad says I'm incredible. My coach says I'm incredible. Like, what do you, and you just shut down, flabbergasted, just very mentally weak. And no, I'm not saying that's with Elias Pettersson necessarily, but there's definitely an element to an old school guy like Miller and maybe a new school kid like Pettersson, and is not jiving well, which is obviously unfortunate for the Canucks.
No, you're right. He's soft as baby shit. And all I can think about was last year's playoffs, and Elias Pettersson was nowhere to be found. You're paying this guy 11 and a half sheets a year. He's got the same contract as William Nylander, and you're going to side with this guy over the guy who, again, will go through a wall for you in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is insanity. I don't know what has happened in terms of tough love, accountability. It's gone out the window, man. Like, what's the formula for winning in 2025 is my question.
Oh, you gotta. How many times have I referenced the Florida Panthers on this show? But it's a group of guys that are like-minded, that are thinking about the same things, and it's hard not to think. And I don't want to paint anyone with a bad brush necessarily, but like when you look at certain situations, it's like it's very individualistic, and these guys are their own brand. And I am this, and I am that, and I need it to be this way, and I need it to be that way, instead of like linking arms and just going forward with we. It seems like that's lost a little bit more now than ever. I think that's true throughout all of sports. I think that's true throughout society in general, but you're seeing it pop up in situations like this where it's not, let's put our difference aside, link arms and figure out who we are together. It's a lot of, I don't like this, well, I don't like that, and that's got to be hard to coach this day and age. I always like asking coaches when we interview them if they've noticed that, and I usually responded with a bit of a chuckle and an eye roll, and yeah, that's definitely different than it used to be.
JT Miller for Morgan Rielly. Would you do it?
Ooh, yeah, I probably would, man. A playoff performer who wants to win that bad for aging, probably best is behind him, D-man that's not really shown up a lot in the last couple of years, with some shades of performance. But yeah, I would make that trade for sure. JT Miller is like what, 31, 30, 31, 32. He's got good hockey ahead of him. I think he'd really help this roster. And Morgan Rielly's been talked about as just kind of not really being the guy he's supposed to be.
BC product as well as Morgan Rielly. And honestly, I'm at a point where you take Rielly off this roster. I don't know how much I'm missing him. He makes $7.5 million per season, but he doesn't provide any offense, doesn't shoot the puck. I think he's been a struggle defensively this season. And for those of you who know me, this is tough to say. I've been the biggest backer of Morgan Rielly in the last 5 to 7 years. I think he's been so great for this team. He just doesn't have it anymore. There's no moxie. There's no chutzpah to him anymore, Rosie. I just don't know how to motivate, get this guy going again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And, I think, I don't know, you start to wonder what the ceiling is, and have we already seen that? And is he going to get back to that? I think he had a 20-goal season there a while back, but other than that, it's kind of sporadic. But he's kind of supposed to be your jack of all trades. He can kill penalties. He'll be good defensively. He moves the puck and can chip in and play on the PP and be that well-rounded guy. And he's just kind of like, in all those categories, which isn't really, what you were looking for. And I didn't wake up with quite the bee in my bonnet that you got going on, but I kind of like it, Nicky Bobby. But yeah, I mean, do you think Vancouver would ever would look at that? I mean, they're not gonna get full value for JT Miller. Everyone knows
Exactly.
they're in this debacle, and someone's gonna try to take advantage. Shit, maybe that's a swing you could take that would be pretty interesting.
It depends on value, and I think it's the one thing we've learned in the Hall of Fame career of Jim Rutherford. If he thinks he's getting value in a trade, he will do it. I think desperation will wreak at some point in time. They lose and lose and lose in Vancouver. Patterson's out. Quinn Hughes is out. I think you start to get a bit desperate, and I think if you're the Leafs, you act upon that, situation where it's like you have the potential to get a center, a guy who's a playoff performer, a guy who plays that Craig Berube style. Like, I think he checks so many boxes. Accountability is big as well. I think it would be hilarious to see JT Miller poking around with the likes of Matthews and Nylander and Marner to see how he receives those type of situations. But at the very least, I am inquiring on that front. And it's not, again, I think a lot of teams would covet a guy like Morgan Rielly. I just wonder, as you mentioned, his best days are by him. You pay him $7.5 million per season, and he's not really returning that value. The return on investment right now on Rielly is not very good, Rosie.
Yeah, I hear you. And sometimes a trade like that, I mean, you're just jogging my brain with this possibility. I haven't really been paying too much attention or thought of that connection, but um, I could see Morgan Rielly getting a change of scenery, simple as
Mhm.
that. And he's been here since he got drafted, and all of a sudden, being reinvigorated and finding new life, and it working out for both parties. And like you said, a center with some grit that wants to win, that's proven to show up in the playoffs, who doesn't put up with any bullshit, who would immediately say, Berube, what are we doing here? I'm going to help facilitate that. Let's link arms and let's go. You need a guy like that, as opposed, and to kind of break through. They've tried it with the Ryan O'Reillys and the Shens and stuff, didn't quite work, but I think they're a different team now, and they're coached differently, and they're looking for a different identity than they were going for in those years. So that's an interesting trade, man. I would, if that happened today, I would be jacked, to be honest with you. I mean, our back end looks pretty good. He's kind of not really filling that role, and to make a deal like that, it kind of makes sense on both ends. So, whoo, that's a hot take today, Nikki.
I think I just have fatigue over the conversation of we got to find Morgan Rielly a D partner. Like how many guys have come through this market, whether it's Ron Hainsey, whether it's Luke Shen twice, whether it's Chris Tanev, and nobody seems to stick with Morgan Rielly. But nevertheless, a polarizing conversation to start off the first edition of Leafs Morning Take for 2025. Don't forget, we're getting closer and closer, Rosie, to the first ever TLN Nation Vacation, March 20th to 25th. In Nashville, Tennessee, live podcast, winery tours. We're taking in the Toronto Nashville game at Bridgestone Arena. Promises to be the trip of a lifetime. We're offering two packages, one with flights priced at $24.50 plus tax, one without $12.99 plus tax. Hotel rooms are double occupancy. This trip is going to be unbelievable. So, Rosie, you better book now, buddy. I know you're booked, but other people listening right now.
1,200 to go down to
Not
Nashville. You
bad.
throw it on your points and have a time like that. Woo, it seems kind of cheap this day and age, but I'm excited for that. And like you said, it's here before we know it. I know some people are just coming up for air after the whole holidays and everything like that, but rest assured that'll be here before we know it. And I am looking forward to it. I love Nashville.
Personally, I like the idea of going with the full package of $24.50 plus tax. Everything, it's out of Toronto. Your flights are figured out. They're booked. There's transportation from the airport to the hotel. Like, everything's in sequence for you. So make sure to check that out. For more information on how to book, head on over to nationgear.ca or check out the link in our show bio. Life's too short for ordinary vacations. All right, looking forward to that, and looking forward to tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips. Did a great job over at the World Junior with Jeff Merrick. But guest Carter Hutton coming on tonight to break down the third meeting in 12 days here, Rosie, with the New York Islanders. How about that?
I know I'm getting a little bit tired of the New York Islanders. It's just kind of a funky little spot in the schedule where it seems like we see these guys, like, what is it, 3 out of how many games? It seems like a couple of weeks we're playing them 3 times. A little bit annoying, but they got the best of them last time. They're tied in the season series. It's kind of like they broke the skid they were on for so long against the Islanders here on New Year's. What the heck was that? New Year's Eve day or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's nice. I don't know. It's getting a little bit stale. Go get a win. I just want. I guess we're not into the New Year's resolution
Not
portion of
yet.
it,
Not yet.
but I'd like to see. I'd like to see some consistency going on, and guys getting healthy and just starting to. We just kind of started, but we're in January. It's like, hey, ball's rolling here, boys. The pieces need to get put together, and I hope that they continue tonight with it.
I love that from Crit Commanda via the chat. The Islanders are like the elevator music of the NHL. It is so true. Every time I see them on the schedule, I'm like, oh my God, I got to sit through another Islanders game. But lo and behold, that's what's happening tonight at UBS Arena. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcasts. When you do so, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. That'd be fantastic. Also, don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. So the third meeting in 12 days here with the New York Islanders. I assume it's going to be Joseph Woll again, right?
I hope so. There's been enough break in between them, and I don't see why not. You think he got a little tweak there on Tuesday, and his paw? It's just when it rains, it pours, man. I think he should be good to go. They haven't made the announcement, but if all things are fine, I would go back to him for sure.
Yeah, it looked like he tweaked something. That said, yesterday's practice, he was a full participant. So feeling positive, feeling optimistic. They kept showing the replay. He got up gingerly a couple times. There's a previous history with the groin problem there. But you're at a point where sometimes as a professional athlete, you can speak to this, Rosie. You got to gut through things, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between being hurt and being injured, and I don't know if that those goalposts have changed in the last while. Talking about new age players and whatnot, but the injuries just seem to be flowing through this organization, and it's not the first year that's happened either. But I don't know. Also under the microscope with being in this market, a goalie shakes his leg after he gets up from the butterfly, and all of a sudden it's a 2-day story about it. So I don't put too much stock into it. He looks ready to go. um, I really wanted to be on his side and say, just because he's been hurt in the past and a high ankle sprain is kind of nothing to mess around with. They can be frustrating. Don't think that this guy's a band-aid or whatever, and then he doesn't get to opening night, right? Which a little bit
True.
frustrating. It is what it is, but I'm looking for some health on these guys and for some longevity with some stringing together, not just Joseph Woll, but these guys that are all over the place. Austin, obviously, some health would be nice here in the new year.
Do you have a read on this Austin Matthews situation? Because I don't. And I'm at a point where I honestly think transparency would help everybody around. Like, I think people are starting to drag Austin Matthews through the mud because they got no clue what's going on. You got a hot take there and a hot take there. And again, just people are speculating. I honestly think it would be in favor of the team disclosing to a degree what is going on here, man. I just didn't like his commentary, meeting with the media yesterday, talking about the injury and asked about is rest going to help? And he was like on the fence and he's like, I don't know. And I guess the positive news, they're on Long Island right now. They're at the morning skate. Matthews is on the ice. We know he's not going to play his 6th game in a row. But what are we doing here is my question.
Yeah, I mean, what stood out to me with his comments was like, is this something that's going to heal by the end of the year? And, you'd think, oh, yeah, of course. I mean, we're just, taking the extra time. But if you look at the timetable, it's, his response to that question was kind of ho hum. I'm not really sure with things like this, they can be tricky. And I don't know. I think my best guess is that it's his back. I think he's been hurt since training camp. I think he took some time playing a little bit hurt, thinking it would fix itself. It didn't, took some time off, kind of started skating, then stopped skating. Like this thing's obviously being re-aggravated. It's kind of an annoying injury. It's coming and it's going. It's not healing properly, not healing the way they wanted. And now they're at the point where, like, okay, we're looking at January here. This guy's still not healthy. And they're probably going to shut him right down. I think even thinking about playing in the Four Nations Cup is ridiculous. They're like, we're gonna see what it's like in a week. Well, fuck, he's been hurt for months and months and months. It's not getting any better. You're seeing hyper specialists in Germany for this guy. He's still out now, 6 in a row now. Shut him right down. Don't even dream of the Four Nations Cup. It's a tournament. You're looking at a year. Like the time is now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I'm sorry, this isn't going to last forever where you have all these guys on the team and they're all in their prime. You got the goaltending. You've put these D to get, like, the time is now. And I just think they must be hyper frustrated, but I agree that some transparency would be nice. Just be like, my back's bothering me. It's shooting this pain down my leg. We're not sure if it's a disc. We're not going to go in there and operate or anything because then the season would be lost. We're trying to settle things down. I'm working with the experts, but every time I think I'm getting a little bit better, I go and play and re-aggravate the hell out of it, start from square one. So now we're just really going to shut it down. I'm going to get to 100%. My focus is the playoffs, and that's the end of the story. It's unfortunate, but here's what it is. What do you think guys are going to be like? Oh my gosh, did you guys hear that? Austin Matthews has a sore back. Let's go cross check it. Like, it's just not the way it works, I don't think. And transparency would probably help at this point.
It is genuinely perplexing why they won't be transparent. To everything you just mentioned, dude, there's no hitting in this league. And I guess the rebuttal would be like, oh, look at that game against Buffalo. Like, do you think the Sabres had any clue what was going on and that a measly cross check was going to lead to a re-aggravation of the injury? I don't think so. Like, I don't, and you're the better person to ask. You've played in this league. I know people are hypersensitive when it comes to injuries. Just look at last year's playoffs. I'm still trying to figure out why, again, Matthews, like why he wasn't there. He just didn't show up. Wall, we never really knew. Nylander, to a degree. I honestly feel like, again, in this situation, transparency is bliss. Like, I think people would understand more if they're just like, this is what it is, move on. But they won't do that. And it's just really bizarre to me to see him practicing, but then there's no like timetable. Like, how many practices do you need is my question.
It is odd. In my mind, you're just doing it to stay moving and stay mobile and stay on your skates and keep your hands going with the puck. But I just think that full contact and it's the way he would just go out there and float in a pregame skate is completely irrelevant to how healthy he is. In my mind, he can go out there and float and sauce it around a little bit and keep his hands going and feel the ice and touch the puck. That means nothing to me as far as, well, he must be ready to play. You look at the full contact, you look at the way, I don't think guys target injuries, but they just target the best goal scorer in the last handful of years, and they're going to be extra hard on him. They're going to finish them. Guys are going to be saying, hey, that number 34, finish all your checks on him. Don't take away his time and space. Get sticks on him. And it's tough to play like that when you're nursing an injury, especially one that, if it's his back, whether you're skating or reaching or shooting or absorbing a hit, everything hurts. And if you've tried to get over that and it's not happening, I just think time's the only thing that you could possibly do. And right now there is some time on his side. But you mentioned the playoffs last time. Look at the season and then playoffs, injury, you're done. And that's why, Tavares said we're close. I mean, they get to game 7 and they lose all these guys and they're still almost there, but it's gone. It's all for naught. Like, you can't dick around with that anymore. Make sure these guys are healthy going into it. And especially with a guy like Matthews, like, I think they're done dicking around with trying him out. It's just shut him down and make sure he's 100%, if that can even happen at this point.
I think guys are wired differently these days. Like, you're telling me about all these guys who are emotional and their feelings are hurt and they're going to go target a player. Come on, man. This is why you have Ryan Reeves in the lineup, man. Like, you have guys who will take care of business. I can't see a pathway where they're like, hey, Matthews' back's injured. We're just using that as an example. Let's go after it. It's a different league, man. Like, we joke about it, but it's true.
I think most guys in the league would be more concerned about getting a picture with Austin
Probably.
in warm up than they would be targeting his injury. But at the end of the day, the playoff intensity factor goes up considerably. I mean, one of my favorite days of the year is opening night of playoffs, where
Yeah.
it's just a hit parade and guys are coming out so heavy. And you need Austin to be at 100%, and you need to know that that's what it's going to be like. And if you believe that this is the year you're going to go on a deep run, that is a grind physically, and you need your 69 goal scorer to be 100% healthy. So as far as these dog days games coming up here in January and February, I don't give a rip if they lose him. They're still tied for first place in their division. They rattle off wins like crazy. Their power play seems to be better without him half the time. It's a no-brainer right now to shut this guy down and get him healthy. And I don't know if we're ever going to know what the full story is, but from the little bit they've given us, it doesn't sound awesome, man. And he's battling
No.
it. The team's trying to figure out what the hell to do. And I think they're at a loss right now, other than we need him in the playoffs. So I expect an announcement of we're shutting him down.
Yeah, I do too. Again, it's just really, really weird. Like, you're so right. What are we doing here? It's January 2nd. You've got another meaningless game against the New York Islanders. You're feeling comfortable. You're first in the Atlantic Division. Like, why are we trying to force feed Austin Matthews out there? And back of my mind, I just think about the four nations, man. We'll never have the answer what people are saying inside the organization, how Austin feels. But like, why would you even like temper the idea of a guy like Matthews, going to that tournament, getting hurt again? Like, just get him right, man. I just don't understand this rush, this need to get him back out there. It seems that way because he's at practice again, right?
So you thinking they're rushing him or what? I mean, it seems like they're shutting him down. All they can do is go off what he says when he came back. And whether he was good and re-aggravated or it wasn't as good as they thought, or maybe they rushed a little bit. Okay, but they are where they are now. He seems to be shut down. This is a 6th game in a row he's missing. No one in
Yeah.
the organization is talking about the Four Nations fucking cup. I think that in Austin's heart, he knows there's not a chance he's playing in that. It's not like this thing's obviously gets aggravated, taking a long time to heal. It's obviously bothering the hell out of him. It has been for months. I don't think the next week there's going to be any, magical pill he's going to take that's going to make this injury go away, where he's going to risk the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the Nations Cup, where one of the best hockey countries is not even in it. Don't best on best. They keep saying like, oh, he has to play because it's best on best. It's so exciting. It's not even. They're going to look back on this and say, yeah, but at that particular time, Russia wasn't even playing in it. It's not going to be something that people remember. It's not going to help his legacy. It's not going to help any of that shit that guys might want to risk things for. I don't think anyone within the organization is trying to hurry him up for the Four Nations Cup.
Bring back load management. That is my solution to this this issue here with Austin Matthews. And to that point, they've won 9 of 14 games without this guy in the lineup. Just get him right. Again, we've hammered this conversation for a month, but it just seems like every day there's a new wrinkle, a new development. And again, he's at UBS Arena skating with the team right now, not going to play 6 consecutive game. Now it seems like it's up to Matthews. Maybe we see him over the weekend. Maybe they shut him down. Your guess is as good as mine. I take everything they say with a grain of salt, too, whether a guy's day to day, week to week. We just have no answers right now when it comes to the Leafs. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Curious to get your read on Matthew Knies right now. He's pointless in 6 of the past 7. Seems to ride perfectly in parcel with Austin Matthews leaving the lineup, but he's got 1 goal in the past 14. He thought he had one last game, called back due to goalie interference.
Yeah, that's a tough one when you kind of start to feel the weight on your back. There's a monkey on there, and all of a sudden, how many games has it been? And then you start overthinking it, and maybe doing things you normally wouldn't do. You grip your stick a little bit with an opportunity, but he's in a little bit of a rut right now. It is a young player. It's not. I mean, if it goes without saying, you'd rather have guys be on fire all year long, but there's not many guys that stay hot the entire 82 game season. It ebbs and it flows. There's peaks and valleys. I think Knies is just in a little bit of a valley right here. Unfortunate that one got called back on him. It was a power move, go into the net, multiple whacks at it. He keeps doing stuff like that. It's going to come for him. And I don't mind him, say he comes back to form and his high potential, playing the way that he can in, March and April and leading into the playoffs. You're going to look back at, remember when he had that hiccup kind of at the end of the 24, start of the new year? Who gives a rip? It's going to be something that no one really thinks about. I just think it's a bit of a blip on the radar right now. Keep doing the same things, playing with the players he is. I don't think there's I think it's kind of a coincidence that it's with Austin Matthews being out.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of a rut that Knies is in, and I'm not going to ride this kid too hard, man. He's young.
No.
He doesn't have a ton of experience. I think he's going to be just fine. Get the monkey off your back and open up the floodgates.
Ups and downs, right? It's just the ebbs and flows of a long 82 game regular season. I think Knies is going to be fine. To that point, I love the response. Craig Berube sort of called him out, said this is what we need from the player, and I think he executed the other afternoon against the New York Islanders. And I think it's only inevitable he's going to score. In fact, I'm probably going to take him for an anytime goal today. Like, I feel really confident in this kid, his resolve, the way he bounces back. And most importantly, like, it's not all about offense with Matthew Knies. He has so many different intangibles he offers, which is great. Like, the versatility is what I love about the player.
Yeah, he's one of the guys where if you just want to go to the stat sheet and decide if he's playing well or not, you're not really giving him, the credit that he deserves, because there's a lot of things he does that don't show up on the stat sheet. That's not the case with every player, but when he's getting the opportunity on the first lines and playing with those big boys, he's capable of putting up the points. But at the same time, he does a lot of things off the puck. He chases down pucks, win puck battles, can be physical, net front presence, forecheck. There's a lot of things that Knies does, and just the fact that he's not been on the score sheet lately, bump in the road, hiccup, dip, rut, whatever you want to call it. He's poised to break out of it and not look back.
So you haven't been around for a while. The bottom 6 started scoring, namely the fourth line. Steven Lorentz, that was a beauty the other night. His first in 23 for the winner there against the Islanders. And then David Kampf I guess he's a top 6 player right now. He's playing with Nylander, but he's got 2 goals in the past 3 games. It's a beautiful sight, dude. I won't lie. To see anybody in that bottom six, never mind the fourth line, score, I love it.
I know it's such a help when guys in the bottom six chip in, right? It's not like it's unexpected necessarily. Sometimes with the fourth line it is, but you get your certain minutes and you're expected to do certain things, and that's kind of set the tone, set the table, get the momentum, get some ozone time, get them on their heels, get them reacting, get them thinking defense, and then get your big boys out there to kind of take the glory, which is fine. But when you're doing that and you chip in goals too, it's just such a relief valve, right? You can takes the heat off the goaltenders, takes the heat off the big boys that are supposed to score the goals. And I keep thinking about playoffs when teams that do well in the playoffs, they have those bottom six guys and those role players chipping in offensively, and they get some production from those different lines. And again, it takes so much pressure off the other guys. And oftentimes in a very tight game, like a playoff game, it can be the difference maker. And you get some of those guys get hot at the right time. They can be such a benefit. So it's great to see. With that in mind, I would like to see some chip in from the defense as well, because you chip in with the D here and there along with the bottom six. Holy smokes, man, you can start rolling teams and you have that depth. So that's a nice piece of it that the bottom six is scoring. I hope it continues. I want them to find consistency with that, and hopefully that funnels back to the D end of things as well.
Willie Dumais writes in, he's got a Senator's picture. Are you going to talk about Austin Cowan? So I will give you the floor, or Easton Cowan, excuse me. Are you going to speak about Easton Cowan? I'll give you the floor. Easton Cowan, just your thoughts on a second straight disappointing World Junior. There's still time, but he has not been great. Very undisciplined too.
Yeah, that's the thing that stands out to me is, it's just a player that young, you expect so much out of these guys, and it's probably not fair, but you get so horned up and you got your country's emblem on your chest and everybody's watching, and you didn't have the greatest setup last year for it. You're going to go out there and be a little hot and horny, and I'd rather pull back on the reins than have to crack the whip. But the discipline has been a bit of a factor. You listen to his interviews. Not that he gives you too terribly much except the regular sound bites, but he seems to know that it's not good enough, that it needs to be cleaned up. And I hope their discipline gets sorted out, and his in particular, because he's got to be a leader in that sense, and leading the way on how to play. But I also don't want them to become pussycats, scared to take a penalty. They go out there, they're going to get rolled as well. So they got to find that balance. Cowan in particular, to play on the edge, but some of the penalties they were taking, was there a couple soft ones? Yeah. Is there always in international hockey? Yeah. But did they cross the line more often than not and deserve what they got? Yeah, I'd say that as well for sure. So they got to figure out a fine balance in that room. And like you said, it's not too late. If they go on a tear and figure it out and win this damn thing somehow, which has happened when teams are in the position that they're in and not exactly lighting it up, all of that will be forgotten.
I think you got to remember too, like these are kids. I think that's been the unfortunate part about the last couple days and losing that game to the States is how many people are just ripping on 18 and 19-year-olds and 17-year-olds in the case of Gavin McKenna, who's an absolute stud. Like, you're going to make mistakes. That's part of being a teenager. Like, I'm not going to sit here and rip on Cowan. It's part of development. He hasn't been good, but I think echoing your sentiments, it's take shorter shifts, simplifying the game, just be within yourself. And I think it's so easy in a tournament like that to feed off the emotion of the building and the crowd and go outside what you know and how to do. Like, you don't think the coaching staff and Dave Cameron's trying to hammer to this team, hey, stop taking penalties, be disciplined. We're humans, man. Humans make mistakes. And I hated the fact that people have just been all over like teenagers the last couple days.
Yeah, it's easy to do. They're that good, and there's that much attention to them. And you're talking about, who's going to sign with who, and who's already played in the show, and what's the
Yeah.
ceiling for these kids. They're going to grow up to be stars and make millions of dollars. Fine, but yeah, they are teenagers. There's a lot of pressure on them, but these guys are elite teenagers, and they're used to the pressure, and they tend to revel in it. So I mean, within reason, I don't mind being hard on them. There's an expectation of how to play when you're representing Team Canada. And if you're kind of dropping the ball, people are going to say, well, this isn't how you're supposed to play this tournament. This isn't how you're supposed to represent our country, whatever your issues are. Yeah, it's a pressure packed stage. And that's what the World Junior, it's not just any old guy playing rec hockey, man. This is the top of the top for these guys in these age groups. So you got to expect a little bit of pressure that way. But yeah, it is what it is. I honestly think they're navigating how they're supposed to play this. They want to come out and be the rough and tumble Team Canada that can blow the doors off people and make them intimidated, and they totally went about it the wrong way, and we'll see how they respond, because there's going to be an adjustment to be made, and I hope they don't overdo it.
Zero identity right now for Team Canada at the Leafs Nation 401. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. It's time for New Year's resolutions, Maple Leafs edition, Rosie. I've been waiting for this for a couple days, but I got some couple things to get off my chest.
Ooh, does that mean I'm going to go first, or do you want to just let her fly?
You lead off, buddy. The Jays are looking for a leadoff hitter, so you go right ahead.
There's two things I'm looking for in the new year. It's consistency and health. I want these guys to get healthy. We've lost both goalies, and Matthews is nonstop, and guys keep falling, and it's been a problem before, as you mentioned last year in the playoffs, an absolute disaster that just kind of gets swept under the rug. Like, what the hell was that? These guys have trouble staying healthy. I want some health in the new year. I want guys to get healthy, stay healthy. I think that will translate to some consistency. But if they can get consistent with their play and actually like show up on time all the time, not get scored on, 9 games in a row, get their power play click, and just find some consistency throughout 60 minutes. Doesn't mean you're going to win every single game, but when you're more consistent, you get comfortable with what it's supposed to look like. And when you need it deep in the playoffs, and when you're in that game and you're in that jam and you're looking to close out, whether it's to win the division or to whatever the case is, big games, it's easier to fall into your comfortable spot of being consistent if you're used to it. And we want to see that here coming down the stretch. That's what I'm looking for.
I got a bunch here. How much time do we have? Number one, score more. 3.11 per game, tied for 13th. You have 4 guys who make a lot of money. We know this conversation by now. You have superstars. You like the bottom 6, you need to do something. You got to start scoring more goals. You agree with this?
Yeah, and I think that if the power play was clicking at any
that's
kind of
number 2. Hold. Number 2, fix the fucking power play. Sorry for swearing. I know you hate that. 20.5%, 19 of 32. And you could add that together with the first point of scoring more when you have 4 guys who make a lot of money. Take the floor, Rosie.
Yeah, I think that the problem with, scoring more consistently and getting that goal that you need, I think that the power play would solve that problem. If you crunch the numbers or look over the past games that haven't gone their way, if they get that power play goal, the whole game's completely different. And it's getting a little bit crazy with how bad that power play is with their personnel.
Awful.
It should be something they absolutely hang their hat on. It should be something that they rely on, probably to a fault, where it's like, yeah, we can get away with playing like this because our power play is so nasty. We'll make up for it there. They don't have that. And I think that would solve a hell of a lot of problems. I don't really understand, how they haven't, what when you watch it, it's like, it still feels like a bit of a circus. It still feels like they don't have a plan. It still feels like they're winging it, and everyone's waiting to see what the one guy does so they can all read and react to it, instead of everyone at once going to a spot and having a system that they know works, whether it's, changing sides with it, or getting it to the top of the umbrella, or whatever their system is. When it comes to their breakouts, their entries, and their setup, it never seems to be consistently like they're trying to do the same stuff. It seems like they're freewheeling it, and it's blowing up in their face. And I can't believe there hasn't been some serious systematic changes to that power play, because whatever they've been doing for a while now has been terrible.
Opening up the thesaurus for the first edition of the year, befuddling is the word of the day for me, because you have that much star power. You can't even gain the zone. Like I, as a fan of hockey and my team is playing, I get excited when the opposition takes a penalty. I can't wait. I can't say I feel the same about the Leafs this year. When the opposition takes a penalty, I'm like, oh, there's a chance that they might get scored on shorthanded. Like, that's my feel when I watch the Leafs. They can't even get the zone. Like, I'm so over it. I'm so fatigued with the conversation. But again, you better fix it. New Year's resolution, or you're going to lose. That's it.
Yeah, it needs to be fixed, because again, playoffs, you need that big goal. You need that one power play opportunity to get the lead, or to get back in the game, or to score the first goal. Whatever it is, it's a huge part of it. And things people don't really think about when you have a bad power play is it's a buzzkill, man. To get an opportunity to think, okay, finally, are we going to put it together? And then it's try, turnover, lost, no shots on net, break it out again. Second unit comes up, ticks down, 10 seconds left, over again. It's a buzzkill when you just can't get it over and over and over again. The other team gets a little shot of momentum, killing a penalty. They put the hammer down afterwards. It's just nothing about it is good having a stagnant power play. And it's more than what you would think of just not getting the extra goal. It hurts you in other ways too. And they need to rectify it big time.
What else do I have on this list? Like you, get Austin Matthews healthy. He's missed 14 games and counting. I have acquire a center. And then I also have don't be stupid. Patience is a virtue. And by that, I mean Mitch Marner, John Tavares, go put up 200 points. We're not having that conversation yet. Okay. I'm going to wait till after the season. I'm going to see how things play out in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then we'll get back to you. That's what I mean by don't be stupid.
And I mean, if you're going to sign them, it's going to be at the ceiling of, especially with Mitch, right? It's going to be this big number. He's not really going to sign it either, I wouldn't think. So there's no point in doing it now. You wait. And I mean, if you get your doors blown off in the first round again, maybe you can get Mitch at a discount or something
Discount.
maybe something else happens. Who knows? But why make the decision now when it only benefits the player? I mean, if you go and you win the bloody Stanley Cup, well, then okay, pay him what you would have had to anyways. You're not going to be in risk of having to give him $15 million a year. You know what I mean? He's going to get what he's going to get. Why risk it and do it early? It doesn't benefit anyone but Mitch, and I'm more concerned about the Toronto Maple Leafs as a whole.
Yeah, the thing I've been getting at the last couple of days, just thinking about 2025 in general for the Maple Leafs. So, like, you need more offense. Depth scoring's been a huge story this year. It's like, okay, let's run it back again with the same guys, pay them a lot of money, and then we're lacking depth scoring. It doesn't make sense to me, Rosie.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's a balance, and they've been fighting with it for years now. Should we be more well balanced in where our money is spread, but we can't let go of these players that we think are too good to not continue on with? And what's your definition of good? You can bring up a whole bunch of stats. There's people that would be coming to the aid of these players saying you cannot, you're out of your mind. And that happens all the time on Twitter and other places. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters when you want to really simplify it is this team winning in the playoffs. And it hasn't happened with this group. You could also get on the other side of that and say, well, look at the Washington Capitals. They didn't win with that group time and time again. And finally they put it together and they won one.
Yeah, but not 10 years, not 10 years, like maybe 4, 5, 6, but not 10. Like we're talking about a decade, right? So at some point you can be like 45 years old and be like, you know what? It didn't work. Let's run it back with a 37-year-old Austin Matthews because it might work because he's sick.
I know. I get it. It's yet to be seen, man. But that's what makes it exciting. Producer Vic says, in the new year here, if Matthew Knies is taking a little dip here, do you think they're knocking on that door and nudging his agent saying, hey, do you want to make it a little extension here right now while his stock is maybe taking a little bit of a dip? Or do you think he'd be the one to say, not a chance? I'm not talking about that right now.
I don't know. From everything we've learned about the situation, I don't think they're gonna hammer something out until the offseason. I think the ball's in Knies' court, right? Like I think they got a number in mind. I think there's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs. All the world's a stage. Valid point. Nick, it took Washington 9 years to win, dude. But okay. Yzerman won at 30 for the first time. But to live on that feeling, that prayer, when again, this team has won one playoff series in a decade and longer than that. Yeah, you're right. Under Shanahan, I was going to say. So I don't know. I'm feeling optimistic about this team. I like them quite a bit.
It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
You're hurting. You got a little itch going today, and I don't mind it whatsoever.
No, we're talking New Year's resolutions, and one of mine was don't be stupid. So I'm not being stupid.
No, I like it. I don't think there's any reason to talk. I just see what this group does. I am not looking past this year. I'm not looking at next year. I'm not looking at extensions. I'm not looking at the future. I'm looking at what can this group do under Craig Berube with with these goaltenders, with everyone being healthy, and then let's talk.
I like it. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, chime in with your thoughts, super chats as well. So January 1st hit, which means the guys who signed one-year deals now eligible for extension. So by my math, Lorentz, Pacioretty, Dewar, Myers, Hakanpää, Murray, you going to give Hakanpää that 7-year extension now or what?
That's what I was gonna say. We gotta lock Hawk and Pop, man. Oh, fuck. That's been the biggest disappointment of this season for me. If you look at like what you were hopeful for and what didn't pan out, I would say it would be that guy in that contract. I don't even know if he'll play another game for the
He's been
Toronto
skating,
Maple Leafs.
Rosie. You missed it.
Yeah, I've been hearing that. That's all I hear this year is someone's been skating. Whoopty fucking shit. It's been disappointing. But one guy that stands out is Pacioretty, man.
Yeah.
If this guy wants an extension and you can get him at some kind of a value, obviously you have him as literally as low as you could get a player who's going to make any kind of an impact, and he's going to go up a little bit. But depending on where they're at, I think he's a guy that fits here well, that's making an impact, who's leading the way with certain things and certain playing styles, playing Berube style. He can play throughout the lineup. He's got veteran leadership and experience, and he can also, be a guy that he can play with the big boys. He can play on a checking line. He's reinvented his game as far as being physical, and he's a guy who's playing Craig Berube hockey, which is exactly what this group's looking for. So that's the only guy that stands out to me if you're talking extension.
Yeah, because there's this desire out there since like the 5th game of the season for Steven Lorentz. Like, I think all these guys are interchangeable. I like what you're saying on Pacioretty, but I don't think it's a decision I need to make now. Like, I think the goal for management is to carve out the most potential salary cap between now and July 1. If it doesn't work, if you don't want to run it back, what kind of changes, what kind of decisions you can make. Granted, if somebody comes at you with a lowball offer and it just makes too much sense to pass up, sure. But I don't think you need to rush to decisions on any of those guys. Like we talked about Pacioretty, I think, at his age and what he's been through the last couple of years, I'm not rushing there. I think Lorentz, I don't want to say it, is replaceable. Like all these guys are replaceable at the end of the day, right? I think you're always looking for that bottom 6 push, that help. Pacioretty's been great, but I can't get to a point where I'm sitting here in early January like, hey, sign this contract, please, pretty please.
Yeah, no, as far as the Doers and the Lorenzes and stuff, I also think they're interchangeable. None of them
Yeah.
have come and have stood out and said, I'm a guy that you need to have, that you can't let slide. They're kind of all guys. It's like, yeah, you did that. But I mean,
Yeah.
Lorenz scored a great goal the other night, but he hadn't scored in 20 some game. It's like not like these guys are earth shatterers, but Pacioretty's the one guy that stands out. I think he's more of a premier player than all those players. If he's willing to, like, if he were just be like, yeah, I'll sign another year for $1 million,
Yeah.
you would absolutely jump on that. I don't know if he's there or not, but Patches bet on himself this year, and it's paying off whether he resigns or not. He's a guy who shows he can still play at a high level in a lot of different roles in this league.
Because I guess the biggest example last year was Simone Benoit getting the 1-year deal, then he gets the extension, right? So that's why this conversation has come up the last couple weeks leading to January 1. Are they going to do it again? Like Phil Myers, I know Kevin Weeks, filtered that name out last week on social media. Like, what would the rush be of extending Phil Myers? Like, I didn't get that one.
I don't know. The only thing I can think of is at this time when nothing's really going on. Like if say they do go on a long playoff run or they do have a bunch of success, which is great, all the players that got you to that point, stock is going to be considerably higher, like a Matthew Knies or a Pacioretty. If they're a big impact player on going to the conference final or getting to the Stanley Cup final or Lord willing winning a cup,
Woo!
those guys stock's going to be through the roof, and you're not going to be able to take them all. So I mean, it's about putting a bet down now and hoping it pays off in the future is the only benefit you could get on getting guys for less. And like we said, I don't think a guy like Lorentz or Dewar is going to be a guy to even be in that position. So they're not really on my mind either.
So just to wrap, it's the Leafs and the Islanders tonight at UBS Arena. Oliver Ekman-Larsson looks like he's going to come back after missing 1 game due to illness. I haven't seen confirmation on a goaltender, but I would assume it's going to be the same matchup, Wool and Sorokin. Any last thoughts on another meeting with the Islanders, the 3rd in 12 days here?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of, I don't like seeing the same group over again. It feels like we've seen the Islanders too much the last little while. That's all good. Just show up to play on time, play the right way, play Craig Berube, get it north, get the power play. I just want to see some of the stuff that's been lacking, step up tonight, get a big win, move on from the Islanders.
Yeah, please. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet in a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today. Like I did the other day, I'm going to play the under in this game. and I'm going to play a Matthew Knies anytime goal, Rosie.
Ooh, I like it. I was going to tell the same thing. I think with both capable goalies, I don't think we've even mentioned Joseph Wall, and he looks like he's
He was
quite
good.
solid. He's
Yeah.
a good goaltender. He can keep you in the game. He can shut it down. I don't think he's going to be squeaky with letting any of them in tonight. They're all playing better defense. I think especially Toronto's kind of having trouble scoring. I think that it's going to be a low scoring game, so I've jumped on that under as well. And I got Nylander to rip tonight.
Okay. He's been dynamite. I'm sure you've been tracking social media. I could have that conversation that Nylander's the best player on the Maple Leafs right now. Like pound for pound, looking at the entire game of the player. He is playing with that much confidence. I know he's got his hiccups. He flew the zone the other day, but I just love watching Nylander play.
Yeah, he's dynamic and he gets it done a lot of different ways. And he doesn't rub you the wrong way either. Who would you say is number 2 on this team so far this year?
This year? Marner.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, Marner's been great. Okay.
Yeah.
He's been great. We expected greatness. He's an amazing regular season player. Like we've had this combo so many times, but he's been really, really good again.
Yeah, he's been helping out when Matthews has been absent, and I just can't believe we're in January right now. It doesn't even feel like Matthews has even got it going or had a chance to like start any type of traction. Definitely frustrating, but it is nice having those other guys step up, and we'll see how it goes tonight.
What the hell's going on in our chat right now? Wait, I gotta back up and read this.
Here we go.
Our girl Lisa Grinton's in this chat, just lighting fuse up. I wish, like, why won't my screen change? Okay. I'm 62 and seen more Leaf games than most. And then she goes on to say, I've also dated a Leaf, so I know a little something.
Hey, give us more. Give us more. Hoo.
Spill the tea.
How many
Spill the tea.
How many dates was this? Was this
Yeah, was this like Bret Hart dating Rosie's mom? It was like what, one date?
I think it was 2.
Mike writes in, Rosie, your secret is out.
About what?
Dating Lisa, buddy.
Oh shit! Yeah, it wasn't me to my knowledge. Hell, maybe it was. Who knows? Crazy things happened back then.
Lisa, who did you date? Which former Maple Leaf did you go on dates with? That's what everybody wants to know in the chat right now. Screw this Islanders game. Screw New Year's resolutions. Who did you date?
Give us initials. Initials.
She said, "Oh, you guys have no idea." LOL. Okay.
All right, we got another potential.
We're extending this show to 2 hours, and we're gonna get Lisa on the show.
We want some wild ones on the Nation Vacation, so hopefully she's signed up and can show her wild side down in Nash Vegas.
Very well put. Yeah, to wrap, make sure you book nationgear.ca, the first ever TLN Nation Vacation, Music City, Toronto, Nashville. We got a winery tour. We got a live podcast. You never know. A guy named Luke Shen could drop by.
We got a hockey game to watch.
We got a hint here, Lisa. He is in the Hall of Fame. There's the hint. Oh.
Did she say she's 63 years old?
Yeah, 62.
Huh. So let's put that down. Maybe give her
Dad writes
20.
in, Rosie is a Hall of Famer.
They still won't build that damn statue on Legends Row. I don't know what the holdup is.
Yeah, I walked in with you to the arena last year. Nobody had a clue who you were. I'm kidding. Leafs Morning Take was on the map when we entered that building.
True. It'd be a totally different story this year.
It is. I guess Lisa's not going to answer for us. Just a Hall of Famer. That's all we're going to get out of Lisa. She's turning 62 in May, so happy early birthday. Why not come celebrate in March at the Nation Vacation?
I like it. 35 years ago, who was a Hall of Famer from about 35 years ago? That's my question.
Chat, do your work here. We're going to have an answer for you guys tomorrow. That's going to do it for today, Rosie. Let's come back stronger and better than ever tomorrow. We're going to recap this one and a back-to-back, another back-to-back. I think 16 back-to-backs this year for the Maple Leafs. They got Boston and Philadelphia on home ice this weekend.
Whew, looking at that Beantown one, it'll be nice to face them. There's a couple guys around the league, a couple teams that I want to match up against, and that's one of them right there. So looking forward to that one. Got to get by the Islanders again here tonight, though.
The chat's heating up, man. There's a lot of Chuck love. Glenn Anderson's in there, too. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. That's your hook to come back for tomorrow's edition of Leafs Morning Take. Again, that was Jay Rosehill. Thank you, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Start off 2025 with a bang, a proverbial bang at that, at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Also, don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Friday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.